Spanish Super Cup is the latest sporting event to be held in the Gulf state and attract criticism because of the nation's many human rights issues. As Barcelona face Atletico Madrid.
That's after Focus on Africa, here on the BBC World Service, the world's radio station. BBC World Service at 1900 GMT. I'm Victoria Wahunda in London with Focus on Africa. We hear from Norway's Justice Minister as the country agrees to take in 600 migrants evacuated to Rwanda from detention centers in Libya. So who are they?
They are mostly from countries like Congo, from Syria, countries where there are not peace at all, and they are very dangerous to be in their home country of origin.
Al-Shabaab claims they were acting on guidance from Al-Qaeda when they attacked a naval base for the U.S. forces in Kenya. We also speak to a young Ugandan man who says he's lost millions of shillings in a cryptocurrency scheme. And Danisha Loda in sport, Arsenal's Mikel Arteta said he's confident Aubameyang is happy at the club. That's all on the BBC Tonight in Focus. First though, the world news. This is the BBC News. Hello, I'm Debbie Russ. US media quoting senior American officials say an Iranian anti-aircraft system accidentally shot down a Ukrainian plane near Tehran on Wednesday, killing everyone on board. There's been no official US comment so far. Iran's civil aviation chief called the reports illogical rumors. Paul Adams reports.
With Iranian officials still talking about mechanical failure, another grim possibility is starting to emerge, that Iran shot down the Ukrainian airliner by mistake. And speaking at the White House, a grave President Trump said he had his suspicions. US officials have told television networks that American intelligence detected radars being turned on, followed by 2 missile launches and an explosion. Meanwhile, images from the crash site circulating on social media appear to show the tip of an air defense missile known as an SA-15. It's not yet conclusive proof, but it does appear to support the emerging theory.
A top Iranian military commander has said that future actions against the United States will be carried out by proxies in the region. The head of the Revolutionary Guard's aerospace force said Wednesday's missile strikes on air bases in Iraq were the start of a campaign to drive American forces from the region. Our Middle East editor, Jeremy Bowen, who's in Baghdad, has spoken to an Iraqi soldier who was on duty at one of the sites, Al-Assad, when it was hit.
The soldier said they were warned that missiles were coming, and the Americans sounded their sirens. 2 missiles, he said, hit the main hall on the American side of the camp. The room was the one where President Trump met U.S. troops when he visited. If he's correct, it's just that Iran's missiles have accurate guidance systems, and it has good intelligence about U.S. military facilities. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad sounded its warning sirens last night. 2 Katyusha rockets landed near it. American forces here remain on high alert. The Iraqi parliament has demanded their immediate departure.
President Trump has announced plans to weaken an environmental law to help speed up the construction of roads, pipelines, and other major infrastructure projects. Mr. Trump said this would overhaul what he called a dysfunctional bureaucratic system that had created massive obstruction. Those also are designed to cut red tape. Critics say the proposed changes are likely to increase greenhouse gas emissions. The BBC understands that Queen Elizabeth and other senior members of the royal family in Britain have asked staff to work with Prince Harry and his wife Meghan following the announcement that they will step back from their duties. It's understood that a workable solution is being sought within days rather than weeks. The couple's plan is said to have caused surprise and disappointment at Buckingham Palace. You're listening to the World News from the BBC. Indian police have used batons to disperse university students in Delhi who were holding a rally near the president's house. They were demanding the removal of the vice-chancellor of the Jawaharlal Nehru University. On Sunday, dozens of masked men brutally assaulted students on the campus. The Students' Union has blamed the attack on a group linked to India's governing BJP. The humanitarian group says at least 17 prisoners have died over the past week in the Democratic Republic of Congo's main jail. The cause is said to be a lack of food and medicine at Pakala prison in the capital. From Kinshasa, here's Gaius Kawini.
According to officials in the DRC, Makala prison hasn't received food supplies in the past 2 months, and inmates are having to rely on their families to bring in their meals. The prison has 5 times the number of prisoners it was built for. Conditions are so poor that NGO groups estimate at least 100 prisoners are gravely ill and close to death. The Gomez-Zeti's Minister of Justice told local media that Makala has now received some funding to help improve conditions.
Hundreds of protesters in Georgia's breakaway region of Abkhazia had stormed the offices of the territory's de facto leader. They gathered in the territory's capital, Sukhumi, to demand fresh elections. The last poll in September saw Rahul Karjimba win a second term. He's described the demonstrators' actions as an attempted coup. A decade ago, Georgia lost a brief war against Russia over Abkhazia and another disputed region, South Ossetia. A supermarket in southern France descended into chaos when police cleared angry shoppers denied the chance to buy cut-price televisions. Géant Casino in Montpellier had accidentally priced the televisions at €30.99 instead of €399. Being told the error. Several customers, some reportedly with 4 or 5 TVs in their trolley, refused to leave the shop.
It's 19:06 GMT. I'm Victoria Uwahonda with Focus on Africa from the BBC World Service. Coming up, a cautionary tale. We meet a young Ugandan man who fell for one of the growing cryptocurrency scams. That's in about 15 minutes. But first, 2 of the countries that I call home, Norway and Rwanda, have joined forces to try and ease the migrant crisis. The Scandinavian country has agreed to take in 600 people evacuated to Rwanda from detention centers in Libya. Rwanda has agreed to help resettle migrants trapped in dangerous conditions in Libya as they try to make their way to Europe. Most of the migrants taken to transit centers in the East African country are from a number of other African countries such as Eritrea, Somalia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. I spoke with the Norwegian Justice Minister Göran Kalmyr, who told me more about this resettlement.
These are the refugees that are in real need for protection. There are 640,000 migrants in Libya. Most of them are young people from Nigeria and other countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh who arrived in Libya to work. They are not the real refugees. And those are the kind of migrants who are trying to come over to Europe now. But we said no to the boat migrants, and we say yes to the real refugees. And those are the refugees that the United Nations has evacuated down to Rwanda.
But these same refugees that have been evacuated and taken on to Rwanda, they were also in Libya with the plan to get to Europe via these boats. How are they vetted as what you call real refugees who are in need of protection from persecution in Norway?
Well, the biggest difference between a real refugee and our economical migrants is that they are coming from a country where they are prosecuted unfairly, they have inhuman treatment in their home country. An economical migrant, they don't come from a country where they are prosecuted illegally. So that is the main difference between a real refugee and an economical migrant.
And these refugees that you've chosen who are now in Rwanda centers, how are they chosen? Where are they from?
They are mostly from countries like Syria, countries where there are not peace at all and they are very dangerous to be in their home country of origin. In comparing to the number of migrants in Libya, there are 640,000 migrants in Libya. Only maybe 10 to 20,000 of them are from countries where there are not peace and where they are mistreated and treated inhumanely. And those 10 to 20,000 of those 640,000 are the ones who have a chance to get asylum in Europe. So that is why it's so wrong now to accept, for example, boat migrants are coming over, because most of them they are from countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, it's from Nigeria, it's from the Ivory Coast. And people from that kind of country is not prosecuted illegally in their home country, and they don't get their asylum in Europe. So we have actually found a safe pattern to come to Europe, and we want that safe pattern to be through the United Nations system. We want to evacuate it, not to Europe, but into another country in Africa, and then we can assess who are in the need of protection in Europe or not. And when we have achieved that, we can take some of them who have been in need of protection in Europe, and we can help the rest of them in Africa.
You mentioned that there are some of the refugees that are coming to Norway are from Syria. Do you know if there are any African refugees who will be repatriated or resettled in Norway?
Oh yes, there are, of course, African refugees that will be resettled in Norway. But those are coming from Congo, and the United Nations has also assessed their case. But there will not be people from, for example, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, because that's not refugees, it's economical migrants, and they should not be allowed to get into Europe or Norway.
And when are these refugees being brought into Norway, do you know?
We are starting up in January, and it will go on all the way to December. It's a large part of work that is going on. We also have prioritized those refugees who are speaking English or having a chance to communicate in Norway for integration reasons. And we also prioritize the whole family, so we don't get any applications for family reunification afterwards. So we have a control about how many is going to Norway and everything like that.
That's Norway's Justice Minister Göran Kalmyd. The Somali-based militant group Al-Shabaab has threatened further attacks against Kenyan and American military targets just days after an attack on a base where U.S. troops and contractors are stationed in Lamu killed 3 American personnel. The jihadist group released a 20-minute-long audio message saying that the attack was carried out with guidance from the head of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri. Al-Shabaab has long demanded the withdrawal of all Kenyan troops from Somalia and says any tourists or visitors to Kenya will no longer be safe in the country. Earlier spoke to our reporter Ferdinand Omondi, who is Nairobi.
This one has also caught quite a few people by surprise because that is now 3 attacks in 1 week this year and claimed at least 10 lives. We do know that the presence has been there, but this sudden surge in attacks is kind of a surprise, and we're exactly wondering why it is happening right now, although the narrative remains for them that they do want Kenyan troops out of Somalia, though there are those who feel that it is now more political than just the sheer presence of Kenya troops on Somalia.
Now, Ayman al-Zawahiri is the leader of Al-Qaeda, and supposedly he's been guiding Al-Shabaab from afar. What do we know about the strength of the links between Al-Shabaab and Al-Qaeda?
For the most part, it is Al-Shabaab who have pledged their allegiance the first time it was announced. Most of the attacks that have happened here most of the time, Al-Shabaab will carry them out and not exactly link themselves. This is the first time, as far as I know, that they are actually saying they go straight directions. So this could be a message that Al-Qaeda is trying to send, that they still have a presence, they still have an influence in this area. But the most time, the biggest threat posed here is directly from Al-Shabaab itself.
The attack that just happened recently in Lamu wasn't the first attack on Kenyan soil so far this year. Let's remind our listeners, what other incidents has the group claimed it was responsible for in Kenya?
Yeah, earlier on, before the military attack, there was an attack that was carried out where they shot about 3 people in a bus, again in the coast, sometime last week, and they claimed a possibility for it. And then along the Kenyan-Somali border to the northern part, where they went to a school and shot 4 children dead, and this that also claimed responsibility for. There have been a string of others, including where hundreds of people have died, including the district attack of last year. And so when you go back, the numbers grow to hundreds that they have killed and claimed responsibility for over the years in this country.
And Friday, very briefly, it's coming up to 1 anniversary of the attack on the DCD hotel complex in Nairobi that happened in January of last year. It claimed 21 lives. Are security levels in Kenya being risen ahead of the anniversary?
Kenya has generally been on high alert. I remember, I think last year there were about at least 3 incidents. I remember when Kenya police actually warned that there were imminent attacks, so we don't know whether they were thwarted or not, but they did not happen within the country. In the borders, they've always been on high alert, but now with the occurrence of the recent incidents, I have seen heavy police presence in some key installations and even in some offices where security is supporting.
That's the BBC's Ferdinand Omondi in Kenya. You're listening to Focus on Africa on the BBC World Service. My name is Victoria Uwonghunda, and it's coming up to 19:14 GMT. Our top story this edition, Norway's Justice Minister says they've started the process of vetting migrants to be settled in the country after they agreed to take in 600 migrants evacuated to Rwanda from detention centers in Libya. And now with all the sport headlines, here's lovely Nisha Plaza. Right, thank you, Victoria. Let's start with some football news because the Arsenal boss, Nicolas Toto, said he's confident that his Gabonese captain, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, is happy and will stay at the club. There were reports earlier in the month that Aubameyang might leave, but the African striker himself said in programme notes last week that he is committed, and Arteta says he's been heartened by what Aubameyang said.
No, I was very pleased with those comments. He knows exactly what I think about him, and obviously he's a massive player for us. At the moment we're in the middle of the season, and we haven't discussed anything further than that.
Well, Aubameyang has scored 13 goals this season, and Arteta knows how influential his captain is at Arsenal. The player has 18 months left on his contract, but Arteta says any contract talks will not take place until the end of the current campaign. Well, still with football, and Nigeria has confirmed its interest in hosting the 2020 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. It needs a new venue after Congo-Brazzaville pulled out of staging the event. CAF President Ahmad has said that Equatorial Guinea are also interested and that a decision will be made at CAF's next Executive Committee meeting on the 15th of January. Well, Nigeria are the most successful country in African women's football with 9 continental titles. The Nigeria Football Federation's Ademola Olajire described Nigeria as the home of women's football and that hosting the event would be like bringing it home again. In other football news, Tottenham have confirmed that their striker Harry Kane, the England captain, will undergo surgery on a hamstring injury. It'll keep him out until April. Away from football, great news for Kenyan volleyball today because their women's team, the Malkian Strikers, have qualified for this year's Olympics. They beat Nigeria by 3-0 at the qualifying tournament in Yaoundé to reach Tokyo 2020. This is the first time Kenya's women's volleyball team will play at the Olympic Games in 16 years. Kenya have been the outstanding team in Yaoundé, recording victories over Botswana, Egypt, host Cameroon, and today Nigeria. And the American golfer Johannes Veerman shot a 9-under par 62 to take the first round lead at the South African Open in Johannesburg. He has a 1-stroke advantage over South Africa's J.C. Ritchie and the Italian Nino Bazzasio. And that's all the sport. Victoria.
Thank you, Nishat. And now here with a roundup of other African stories making news on the continent, Mr. Victor Silva.
Thanks. The South African military has confirmed that one of its aircraft deployed to the DRC as part of the UN peacekeeping mission MONUSCO was in a crash landing in Goma. The C-134 engine plane is reported to have been on its way back to Goma after delivering logistic supplies at Beni. Sipui Dlamini is the spokesperson of the South African National Defence Force.
There has been damage to the aircraft, but all on board do not suffer any injuries. We will be convening an investigation as soon as possible as to the causes of the accident. This is our transport aircraft that normally transports our troops to and from the DRC, and it's a workhorse of our transport system in the air force.
Meanwhile, the UNHCR in South Africa is still grappling with just how to solve the demands of asylum seekers and refugees who've been occupying the Methodist Church in Cape Town. A meeting held last evening was full of hope that something positive will finally emerge that will satisfy all sides, including the South African government. But things did not work out as anticipated. Hein Shin is with the UNHCR in South Africa.
Since last week, the UNHCR has been involved in a series of meetings with stakeholders that was actually convened by the South African government. And unfortunately, we have not been able to, at this time, to reach a conclusion. We hope that all the refugees will apparently continue to return to their areas of residency in South Africa in a very peaceful manner.
Students at Guinea were out in the streets of Conakry today as the president announced government reforms. Al-Hassan Silla reports.
Students in some sections in Conakry went on the rampage as they failed to find teachers in their classrooms. The teachers had been absent as they adhered to a strike called by one of the leading teachers and researchers union in the country. The union says policies made by the government to increase their salaries by a significant margin hasn't happened. The students blocked roads and disrupted the circulation of vehicles before they were chased away by the police.
On the United Nations mission in Mali, it says 20 people have been injured in a rocket attack on the military base enemy to the country. The base is used by Malian, UN, and French forces. 18 of the wounded are UN peacekeepers.
Thank you, Victor Silva, with that roundup. Baseless and unfounded. That's the response of South Sudan's first Vice President Taban Dengai to U.S. accusations of serious human rights abuses. He's been slapped with economic sanctions by the U.S. for his alleged involvement in the disappearance and deaths of two prominent South Sudanese in 2017. But Mr. Taban insists he's wrongly accused and knows nothing about what happened to human rights lawyer Dong Samuel Luak and opposition politician Akra Idri. They were picked up from the streets of Nairobi a couple of years ago, and the UN believes they were murdered in South Sudan just days later. Ambassador Adel Sandrai is Mr. Taban's office manager, and he's been speaking to journalist Nicola Mandel in Juba.
It has been the style of the U.S. Department of Treasury of Foreign Asset Control to put individuals from South Sudan, and now they have included the first the supply person of the Republic of South Sudan, General Taban Dengai, or the sanction list. And this was about reasons. First of all, Idri and Doc were not abducted in South Sudan. We know very well they were abducted in Kenya, Nairobi, and it was not under the directive of the Excellency of the President that they should be abducted. We don't know who abducted them. The Kenyan government and the security organs in Kenya, they should be able to investigate that and give us the details of who abducted them and whose directives.
You spoke for the first Vice President, this office manager. What is the reaction really of the first Vice President to this announcement of the sanction?
There is nothing to do about sanctions in South Sudan. It has become part of the South Sudanese. You wake up and be surprised your name is on the sanction list. So it is normal. And we take it as the way how things are being done, this is being done now by the U.S. partner. We will approach it to the government system to see how it is done.
And what is the first Vice President going to do about it? What is he saying?
He pledges to continue working with the U.S. Department and international community and in putting the records right. So definitely there should be a point in time when it will be discussed and the reality will surface.
The parties to the agreement are expected to form a national unity government in a few weeks. Is this announcement of the sanction against the first Vice President affect the process in any way?
It won't affect the
And the first Vice President is also expected to be one of the prime deputies. How would this affect his position in the new government?
Well, he will still be the Vice President and he will discharge his duties without any effect.
Given this serious accusation, is the first Vice President considering relinquishing his position for someone else?
The first Vice President has not committed anything else. The sanction is not a judgment on the first Vice President. It is an event created to confuse the process. And so that does not entail the first Vice President to relinquish his position, resign from his position, or give up his office to somebody else. There's nothing that will happen. So there is a sanction. The government will continue to work and will continue to work in the government.
Now let's talk about something is called crypto or digital currencies like Bitcoin. It have so many advantages. You don't need a bank account. You can spend and receive funds online securely without phone transfer fees. And if you're really, really lucky, you can even make a killing at it. But it so happens that sometimes what sounds too good to be true might exactly be that. One of the most recent examples is in Uganda, where the crypto coins company Dunamis Coin was shut down by authorities last month, and two of its directors were charged with obtaining money by false pretense. I spoke earlier to a young man who has experienced his worst nightmares when he invested over 10 million Ugandan shillings in the scheme. That's way over $2,000. So how was Isaac persuaded to invest that vast sum in that scheme?
How that worked? And here comes my team leader. He tells me about the business. And at first I told him I'm not interested. And then
He told me, man, I've already joined the business. Just wait. When my date comes, I'll get paid and I'll let you know. I said, fine. So when the time came and he was paid, he sent me photos of my truck, the cash that he had got paid. So immediately that day, I went to the office of this company and I paid an amount of 400,000 shillings immediately to try and see whether the business will work. I gave it 21 working days and they called me back telling me, come and pick your money. And it worked. I got paid for the first month.
Do you mean you got paid by this cryptocurrency company?
Yes, I got paid. And this is how they were paying people. When you invest between 100,000 to 2 million Zambian shillings, you get a return of 30% profit. Between 2 million and above, you get 40% interest.
And did you have any prior knowledge or did you do any research into cryptocurrency and this company before you actually started to invest?
No, not really. I didn't do prior investigations about the company. What really convinced me, the wife of my friend who made me join the company was a staff in this company. So she was telling me, don't worry, everything is okay. When a problem is about to happen, I will let you know, so that you can pull out your investment. So that's what happened.
And today, what is the relationship between you and your former colleague who introduced you to this and his wife who used to be staff at this company?
The relationship is okay because this was my personal decision. They didn't force me into it. We talked, we laughed, no problem.
How much did you lose?
Actually, by the time the company closed, on my personal receipt, I had invested 2.5 million shillings, and on the other receipts that are not in my name, I had one with 9 million and the other one with 8 million shillings.
That is an incredible lot of money with that kind of sum that you're mentioning there.
I got a loan to invest, but at the moment I don't have any other loan, so I'm just paying on the small salary that I have.
I'm just trying to understand, did you get a loan from your employer so you could invest in Junami's homes?
Exactly, yes.
Did you tell them what you were about to invest in?
No, I didn't tell them. It was just personal development issues. That's what I told them, and I knew what I was going in for, so I'm ready to pay everything, and I will pay.
How has that affected your family living such vast amount of money?
It just affected me because the last month of December, tight on me. My finances were low and I wasn't really doing well. I just wanted to back up.
Are you married, Angela?
Yes, I am.
What does your wife say about this? Did she know about what you were investing and how much you've lost? Have you spoken to her about this?
Actually, from the very first time I came to know about the business, I spoke to her. We agreed on it, and she told me, go ahead and invest. So she knows everything.
Are you hopeful at all that you will be able to retrieve some of the money or all the money that you had invested and substantially lost?
Yes, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that I'll get the money back someday. What they say is that when you pay, they know the account, they have the account, and they sure the money is there. It's just like the company was closed like that.
What convinced you to take a loan from your employer, to take money from your family or yourself to invest in this company, Junami's Coins Resources Limited?
First of all, the life in the development and everyone is working hard to see that they improve their life, to improve their well-being. Just a man trying to make ends meet and see that I'm successful somehow.
What question, if you have any, would you ask yourself and your colleague and the company that you look back and say, where did you all come from?
The question is, how were they able to make these returns? That question really keeps on lingering in my head. I don't really understand how possibly they could give 40% on an investment of 2 million and above.
You know what they're saying is really, I'm sorry, if the point's too good to be true, then it shouldn't be trusted. Is that what you're thinking now?
Yes.
And that also is from me, Victoria Uwahunda, and the rest of the Focus on Africa team. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC World Cup, where next it's sport today. Now at 21 GMT, it's assignment. A wild world takes over the radioactive lamp in Belarus around the Chernobyl reactor. Rules, rules are all returning. What can we learn from our present? Then, here's from the chef of Macan.
I realized, what causes what is the spices of the north, the spices of the east. You could taste the difference.
And at 23 GMT, it's Antler. Here's an impact. Today, the first African-American to build $1 billion business. Janice World Howard grew up in the Federal League of South, and when she struggled to find a good job, launched her own company. The decision that would attach her name to the system. That's all for today, here on the BBC World Service.